Yes, indeed. We are back for day 24 afternoon session of the Chad Daybell trial. Hello, Truth Matters. They have just
Thank you. Please be seated.
called the jury in and are seating the jury. Let's see what they have in store for us now.
Okay, we are back on the record. CR 2221-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. Concluded the lunch recess. The jurors are all returned and accounted for, and Investigator Edwards is on the stand on direct examination. Exhibit 398 had previously been admitted and was being published as part of direct. Ms. Blake, if you'd like to continue with the witness, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. And may I be handed Exhibit 398 again?
You may.
Oh, wow. Now I just found out what happened with the Corey Richins preliminary hearing. It has been delayed until June, and that's why I couldn't find it this morning. Well, that's a relief because, well, I wish it was actually happening just, so justice can be served. But I'm just relieved that I wasn't missing something, I was like, where the hell is this thing? And I saw that like 3 other people had scheduled lives. So I went into somebody else's live and they were like, yeah, I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. So I was like, okay, I feel better. I'm not the only one
that's not wanting to go.
Can't find it. So Corey Richins preliminary hearing is not until June. Looks like they're having more technical issues. I hope you had a nice break. I hope this stream finds you as well as possible, as well as possibly can be. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. Thank you very much. This detective has been testifying to some pretty important evidence. We just heard text messages between Chad and Lori. He created an entire timeline. Hello, Stacy. I did Sparkles. I was actually watching the Karen Reed trial. But just to finish my thought, this detective created an entire timeline of events, and it was a good breakdown.
Thank you for that assistance. Investigator Edwards, do you recall leaving off with this slide?
I do.
And again, these were messages sent in the days before the attempted shooting of Tammy Daybell?
Correct.
And can you tell us what we're seeing on this slide?
So the timeline again moves right up for October 9th. On October 7th, 2019, you know that Alex signs into the St. Anthony gun range. On October 8th, 2019, he actually conducts a internet search of 6.5 Grindle drop from 100 to 200 yards. And then he visits a site drop from 100 to 300 yards.
And in looking at those searches, are you aware of some of the firearms located in an apartment associated with Alex Cox?
I am.
And was one of those firearms in fact a 6.5 Grendel?
It was.
And can you explain a little bit about what the drop means?
I can. Yeah. So the image on the right is kind of I'll give you a visual idea of what we're talking about, but drop is actually what that bullet does is it comes out of the weapon, and what the searcher is looking for right here is what that distance is and what effect that will have on the bullet. So the farther out the shot, that bullet naturally just drops, right? And you can compensate for that with your scope. You can make an adjustment on your scope so that you can shoot and hit targets that are further out past 100, 200, 300,000 yards, whatever it is.
And then it looks like there is also a visit to the gun range on October 8th.
There on October 8th, he again signs into the St. Anthony gun range, and then he conducts a Google search for a Rhode Island area code, which is 401.
And did you learn a significance with that 401?
I did.
What was that?
So we can go to the next slide. There's a 401 number that is used by Chad Daybell. To date, this phone has not been located, but two burner phones are used for the first time on October 9th at about 9:15. A burner phone is an an inexpensive cell phone rather, designed for temporary or sometimes anonymous use, and then it can be discarded.
And I think you indicated there were two burner phones.
There were
Do you know who those phones were associated with?
Alex and Chad.
And then there's an indication here as well of some real phone numbers. Can
Yeah.
you explain what those are?
Yep. The 208-690-9374 number was Chad's real phone. And then the last number on there, the 480-351. Yeah, sorry. I did this last time. I apologize. 480-351-9120 was Alex's real phone number.
And again, what event occurred on October 9th?
So there was an attempted shooting of Tammy Daybell on October 9th.
And then looking down below at those next boxes, can you explain what we're seeing there?
So I took and piled so I could better understand all of the messages and cell phones that were involved in this. The first block at the top, I calculated 90 calls and text messages between Alex, Chad, Zulema, and Lori between 9 o'clock in the morning on the 9th and 2:28 in the following morning on the 10th. So there were 8 text messages between Alex and Chad between 1:19 p.m. and 1:22 p.m. Alex Cox and Chad Daybell's phones are actually near each other between 1:22 and 2:20 p.m. on the 9th. And then there are 15 text messages between Alex and Chad between 7:13 p.m. on the night of the 9th and 8:43 p.m. on the night of the 9th. The attempted shooting occurs somewhere between 9:15 and 9:25. And then there's 4 additional text messages between Alex and Chad between 10:28 p.m. and 10:29 p.m.
And through your investigation, did you determine where Zulema and Lori were on October 9th?
I did.
Where were they?
They were in Arizona.
Did you learn of anything that they were doing on October 9th?
I did.
What was that?
I learned that they were doing a casting about the same time.
Do you know where Chad and Alex were located?
I do.
Where was that?
In Rexburg, Fremont County.
And when we see these messages being exchanged between Alex and Chad, was that a combination of all 4 phone numbers listed here?
It was.
And can you tell us what we're seeing on this slide?
So this slide and the next 3 are all kind of describing where specifically that phone was located. So the first phone that we talked about, Chad's burner phone, what I call the 401 number. There are text messages between Alex and Chad between 1:19 and 1:22, and those phones, Chad and Alex's electronic devices, are at Alex's apartment, at or near Alex's apartment between 1:22 and 2:20 p.m.
And when you were going through this, did you use data, location data collected by other officers or agents?
I did,
You did not plot the data point yourself.
correct.
And what are we seeing on this slide?
This is what I call Chad's real phone, the 208 number. There are 8 text messages between Alex and Chad between 1:19 and 1:22 on the same day. Again, Chad and Alex's electronic devices are near Alex's apartment between 1 and 2:20.
And on this one?
So this is the Homer J. Maximus Gmail account for Alex, which is attached to Alex's real phone of 480-351-9120. And again, Chad and Alex's electronic devices are at or near Alex's apartment between 1:22 and 2:20 p.m.
And with this slide?
So this is where it changes. We know that Alex's real phone then travels south to Idaho Falls. And so between 2:40 and 3:18 p.m., Alex's electronic device travels to Idaho Falls Sportsman's Warehouse.
And on this slide?
On October 9th at 4:11 p.m., there's a transaction that consists of 5 items that are listed below that Alex purchases. A woodland cap, flip mitts, some gloves, thermal 3-hole FAs, and a picture on the next slide, bullfrog rain jacket, and then a Dr. Pepper
And you said rain jacket. Did you mean pants?
pants. I'm sorry. Yes, rain pants.
And these are images of those items?
Correct.
And do you know if these were actually photos taken or obtained by Agent Wright?
Yes.
And what are we seeing on this slide?
So this is now that same day, Alex's electronic device has since gone back up north towards Fremont County and actually drives past the Daybell residence. The device moves to the area of Daybell. You can see that it comes up, the little green CD little image is the Daybell property or residence, and the arrows indicate the travel that Alex's device went.
Through the investigation, did you learn of anyone besides Chad that Alex knew in that vicinity?
No,
And what are we seeing on this slide?
this is a few minutes after he goes past the residence. He basically turns around and comes back past the Daybell property.
As part of your investigation, did you review the events of October 9th of 2019?
I have,
And to be clear, you were not involved in that initial investigation.
that is true.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what's indicated on this slide and what we're seeing?
So this is the 2 photographs. The one on the left is an overview of the Daybell property. You can see that there's a driveway that comes in off of 200 North, and then another driveway that comes in off of 1900 North. And the image on the right is a photograph at the front of the Daybell residence showing that driveway on 1900 North. On October 9th at approximately 9:15, the first 911 call to Fremont County Sheriff's Office is made by Joseph Murray, who is Tammy's son-in-law.
And I think you said at 9:15, is that the time?
Sorry, I read 9:41, sorry.
Not a problem. And with 9:15, are you aware that that's when Tammy indicated the event had occurred?
Correct.
So from your understanding, the event was not called in immediately.
Correct. It was not.
And I believe there should be a pointer somewhere up there. Do you see that?
I do.
And can you point out again on the overview image where the 2 driveways are?
So driveway number 1 here, and then the second driveway right here, which is the same driveway right here.
And can you, as part of the investigation, did you review some of the contents of of a device associated with Tammy
I did.
and some accounts associated with her?
Yes,
Do you recall looking at this particular message?
I do.
And can you read it into the record?
And on October 13th, 2019, Tammy sent her son, Mark, an email, who was serving an LDS mission at the time. And it says, quote, "I was coming home from clogging. It was about 9:15 and I backed into the front driveway. I was getting some items out of the back seat. We had made freezer meals for enrichment that night and my clogging shoes. I realized someone was by the back of the car. I looked up, thinking it was Dad or Garth to help me carry stuff in. Nope. It was a guy dressed in all black with a ski mask on, pointing a rifle at me. I think I was a bit in shock because I just said, 'What do you think you're doing?' Then I noticed the rifle was actually a paintball gun. It had a hopper on top. The guy started pulling the trigger and I could just hear the clicking and a whooshing sound of an empty paintball gun. He stayed standing by the back of the car, just pulling the trigger while pointing the gun at me. For some reason, I kept asking him what he thought he was doing. At that point, I was actually more annoyed than scared because he was standing between me and the door, and he didn't step toward me or even say anything. The scared part came after, when my brain thought of the other things that could have happened. The thought crossed my mind to hit him with my clogging shoes. But first, I looked toward the house and yelled, 'Chad.' Then they guy ran off around the north side of the house. I ran in the house and got Dad and Garth."
In this email, do you see the different references made to the weapon?
I do.
And how does Tammy initially identify the weapon?
As a rifle.
And do you also see where she talks about it actually being a paintball gun?
I do.
And then do you see in parentheses where she added some clarification?
Yes.
And what, if anything, would that indicate to you?
Response, Ms. Blake.
Your Honor, I think in his investigative capacity, I'm asking if that indicated anything to him as an investigator.
Judge, it doesn't allow him to speculate about what was the purpose of this comment in an email. That's speculative.
I'll sustain that.
Tammy provided clarification with relation to that paintball gun. Is that correct?
She did.
Are you aware of anything that can resemble a hopper on a rifle?
Yes.
What would that be?
A scope.
Do you also see an indication that the individual is doing more than simply pointing the firearm?
Yes.
And what did you see in addition to that?
He keeps pulling the trigger, pointing the gun at her.
And do you recall what color the items were that were purchased from Sportsman's Warehouse earlier in the day?
Black.
And I previously asked you what on a rifle could resemble a hopper. Can you tell us what we're seeing in that first image, the top one?
So the top image is the 6.5 millimeter Grendel AR that was recovered. It belonged to Alex Cox.
And can you tell us what that bottom image is?
The bottom image is an example of a Tippmann paintball gun that was pulled.
And with that pointer, can you show us where the hopper is on the paintball gun?
On this particular paintball gun, this is the hopper right here.
And in relation to that firearm, can you tell us where the scope is?
This is the scope right here.
And again, we talked previously about your experience with using both assault rifles and paintball guns. Do these appear to be accurate representations of some that you've seen before?
They do.
And in Tammy's description, the gun is being pointed at her.
Yes.
Would that indicate she's looking at the front of the gun?
That's how I would interpret it. Yes.
Did you notice anything else in relation to that Grendel 6.5 in relation to the end of that firearm, like the front of it?
Yeah. So I noticed that the front of this has been grooved out or has the capacity of having something attached to the front of it.
And in your experience, what types of things can be attached to the front of an assault rifle?
A suppressor.
If a firearm has a suppressor attached and it's fired, would it still potentially make a sound?
Yes.
What type of a sound might it make?
Whooshing sound.
Did you notice anything? Let me back up. Did you personally observe this 6.5 Grendel?
I did.
Did you make any additional observations in relation to this firearm?
I did.
And what were those?
It's kind of difficult to see on this picture, but you'll notice there's a gap right here. Sorry, my hand's shaking a little bit, but there's a gap between the upper and the lower receiver of the weapon.
And can you talk about what we're seeing here?
This is the gap I was talking about between what is the lower receiver and the upper receiver of the weapon.
And can you tell us a little bit about why that stood out to you?
So this particular weapon, when I observed it, if you tipped or even slightly moved that weapon, there's two pins on these weapons. There's a front takedown pin and a rear takedown pin. Typically, those sit tight within the weapon and they keep the weapon together. It comes apart in two pieces. They have an upper receiver and a lower receiver. And when you take one of that rear takedown pin out, this one here, that weapon actually hinges and comes up. If that makes sense. If you take both of them out, the weapon comes apart in two pieces. So for me, when I saw this weapon and I held it, literally just turning it a little bit caused that rear takedown pin to come out. Didn't take me hardly anything to do that. Most weapons, those sit very secure and tight.
And if something caused that pin to come loose, would the gun still fire?
Judge, objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
It
Would
could.
gun- And you say it could, would it fire multiple times from your training and based on your training and experience?
So the minute that gap is formed between the upper and the lower receiver, what happens in this weapon is this bolt right here, when the weapon is fired, retracts into the buttstock of the weapon, into the stock. So when that gap is created, this bolt right here cannot retract into the buttstock of the weapon. The gun would malfunction quick. You may get one round off, but you won't get more if that weapon stays separated.
And would that be regardless of if someone kept pulling the trigger?
Yes.
And again, this is an image of the firearm recovered that was associated with Alex Cox.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about what we're seeing on this slide?
So this slide is the timeline of October 9th, the night of the attempted shooting. Starting at 5:28 p.m., there are 6 text messages between Chad and Lori. 7:13 to 8:43, there are 15 text messages between Alex and Chad. Between 9:04 and 9:28, there are 6 text messages between Lori and Zulema. And between 9:15 and 9:25, the attempted shooting occurs. Shortly after the attempted shooting, Chad and Lori are texting at 9:30. We know that Emma, Joseph's wife, calls Tammy at 9:37. 9:41 is that 911 call that Joseph Murray makes. At 9:45, the first Fremont County Sheriff Deputy arrives or is dispatched. Tammy then calls Fremont County Sheriff's Office at 9:49. And the first Fremont County Sheriff Deputy arrives on scene at 9:52. While the Fremont County Sheriff Deputy is on scene, there are 2 text messages between Alex and Lori. There are 4 text messages between Chad and Alex. And there are 2 text messages between Chad and Lori at 10:31. And then the Fremont County Sheriff Deputy clears the scene at 10:42. We know that Alex calls Zulema and has a 38-minute plus phone conversation with her at 11:28. And then there are 3 text messages between Zulema and Alex between 12 and 12:28 the following day at that point.
And from your review of the phone records, did you ever observe the content of those text messages?
No,
And then can you tell us about this slide?
so on October 9th, there is an internet search that Alex conducts on how to clean an AR. On October 11th, he then makes a few more internet searches, which include how to drill baffles to make a suppressor. Will a 6.5 Grendel shoot through a windshield? 2008 Dodge Dakota steel body thickness. What gauge steel are the doors of a Dodge Dakota made of? How thick is 22 gauge steel? He then visits the sites, making a homemade silencer, build your own silencer, and what caliber would penetrate a windshield.
And the bulk of the searches contained on this slide were 2 days after the attempted shooting of Tammy Daybell.
Correct.
And again, on October 9th, was Tammy Daybell actually shot?
No,
Was there any significance in relation to that Dodge Dakota?
there was.
What was that?
The Daybells owned a Dodge Dakota.
And can you tell us what we're seeing on this slide?
Yeah, you may click through those. Okay. Just continuing with the timeline, October 12th, we know that Alex goes to the shooting range again on the 13th of October, again on the 15th of October. But on the 16th of October, he actually goes to the storage unit and puts the 2 rifle scabbards, 2 totes, and 2 boxes into his storage unit. Yep. 2 rifle scabbards, 2 totes, and 2 boxes into the storage unit. And then he does not go back to the shooting range again after storing the weapons.
As part of the investigation, did you also focus in on October 18th?
I did,
And why was that?
because on October 19th, Tammy Daybell was killed.
Objection, Judge.
Sustain.
Argumentative.
Sustain.
Judge, I'd like,
I will strike that response.
Do you know if Tammy Daybell was pronounced dead on October 19th?
She was.
And what are we seeing on this slide?
On October 18th, this is Chad's 401 number that is utilizing the towers that are provide coverage to his residents. At 9:54 a.m. when it receives a text message from Alex's 334 number, and Chad returns that text message at 10:40 a.m.
And what are we seeing on this slide?
So this is a October 18th. This was a screenshot of Tammy's phone that was active and playing games until 10:22 p.m. or an image.
And can you tell us what we're seeing on this slide?
So again, this is a cast report that I reviewed on October 18th from 10 to 11:46 p.m. We know that Alex Cox's phone is near the Daybell residence from 10:07 to 10:45 PM at the LDS church, which is just south of the Daybell property, about 2.6 miles away. Alex's phone does not provide any data from 10:45 until 11:53 when it's actually driving away from the LDS church on Highway 20. We know that Alex's phone goes to Idaho Falls and where it stays at a hotel.
Do you know at that time if Alex still had a residence in Rexburg, Idaho?
I don't remember if he did or not at that point.
And again, through the investigation, did you learn of anyone besides Chad Daybell that Alex knew in that vicinity?
No.
And can you tell us what we're seeing on this slide?
So this timeline is similar to the one from the 9th, but this covers the 18th to the 19th of October between 6:13 and 12:35 a.m. Between 6:13 to 8:24 p.m., there are text messages between Chad and Lori. Between 6:56 and 8:24, 6 text messages between Lori and Alex. At 8:44, Chad texts Alex. At 8:47 to 9:00, 12 text messages between Alex and Lori. 8:52 p.m., Lori texts Chad. 9:35, Alex texts Chad. 9:43, Chad texts Lori. 9:59 to 11:12, there are 11 text messages between Zulema and Lori. At 10:07, Alex's phone arrives at the LDS church that we just talked about. Between 10:12 and 10:28, there are 4 text messages between Alex and Chad. 10:22, Tammy's phone is active playing games. 10:23 to 10:54, there are 10 text messages between Alex and Chad. And at 11:28, there's a single image that is deleted from Tammy's phone. Chad then sends 2 text messages to Lori between 11:34 and 11:35. At 11:46, like we just talked about on the last slide, Alex's phone leaves the LDS church parking lot and heads south. At 11:53 to 12:09, Alex calls Lori. At 12:10, Lori sends Zulema a text, and at 12:35, Chad sends Lori a text.
And during this time frame through the investigation, did you learn Lori was in Hawaii?
Yes,
And is it your understanding Zulema was in Arizona?
it is,
Where did you understand Chad and Alex to be?
both in Fremont County.
Can you tell us what we're seeing? Actually, I'll back up here. Are you aware of where Tammy was ultimately buried?
I am
And where was that?
in Utah.
Do you know when her funeral was held?
I do.
When was that?
So her funeral was held on October 22nd in Springville, Utah.
So 3 days after she was pronounced dead?
Correct.
And can you walk us through the messages that appear on this slide?
Okay. October 20th, 2019, between 7:48 and 8:33 a.m. Again, Lori is in Hawaii. Lori sends a text, and again, this is in pink and blue. I'm missing you more. I need you desperately. Heart emoji. I can't wait. Kiss emoji, kiss emoji. Need you to hold me tight. That would be great. What about the idea of you coming here Thursday or Friday? Or do you want me to come home? Question mark. Chad replies, their apartment is haunted and we can't clear the place. So they are looking to move anyway, and I have the perfect place for them. I need to be here to get sorting the financial stuff, and I truly need your help. So please come home Thursday so we can spend the night together. Then as soon as I have things under control, we can return. I seriously want you to look for a condo for us while you are there that we could return to at the first of the month. Lori replies, I know exactly where we should be. I don't really care where we are as long as you are holding me forever. Heart emoji. Chad, I want to get going full steam ahead on Lily workout plan. Tighten the abs, get a full body tan, grow out my hair. This could be really good for both of us. She replies, I love that plan. It's not soon enough though. This is torture. Maybe you need to clear my mind so I can't remember how much I love you. Heart emoji. I will try, but it feels like Raphael and Lily are together about 100%. Not sure it will ever be lower again. That's true. I do feel you. Heart emoji. I feel lovesick. I can't sleep. I don't want to eat. I just want you. It's so consuming. And then 2 emojis, and I'm not sure what those are. I'm not sure what those are. I know exactly how you
Burn in
feel.
hell, Chad.
I'm feeling sad, but it isn't for the reason everyone thinks.
And when we look at these messages again, did you know where Lori was located around this time?
Hi,
She was in
MJ.
Hawaii.
Hi, Grandma Sherry.
And Chad's indicating to her that she should look for a condo there.
Yes,
And this is the day after Tammy's been pronounced dead.
correct.
Was there anything else in particular that stood out to you about this message, about this series of messages?
The last text message from Chad. I know exactly how you feel. I'm feeling sad, but it isn't for the reason everyone thinks.
And then if we can go through the messages on this slide as well.
So this is October 20th between 7:48 and 8:33 a.m. Again, Lori's still in Hawaii. What is on your agenda today? Chad replies, need to get ready to meet with the mortuary, but I hope to be able to talk in a few hours after I get my parents to go home. I love you so much, my sweet Lily. What time does Audrey arrive? Lori replies, she gets here at 2 my time, so 6 your time. We are going to Sacrament at 9 to see Lisa, hopefully. Kiss emoji. I love you. Heart emoji. 3 days later, another text message at 8:24 a.m. Again, Lori is still in Hawaii. I love you, Lily. Eagerly anticipating our alone time. Craving you intensely. 3 fire emojis.
At this point in time, were JJ and Tylee missing?
Yes,
Was Tammy deceased?
she was.
Was Charles also deceased?
He was.
Through your investigation, did you learn when Chad and Lori were married?
I did.
And when was that?
November 5th, 2019
And do you know where they got married?
in Hawaii.
And again, do you know what kind of rings they exchanged?
Malachite rings that they had purchased.
And can you talk through what we're seeing on this slide?
So this is a slide on the insurance policies. Chad and Tammy both had life insurance policies for $300,000. They were established on 3/19 of 02, the policy number up there. On September 8th, Tammy's life insurance through Ballard Insurance from the school that she worked at was $50,000. She raised her individual amount of $10,000 to the max of $80,000 for a total of $130,000. On October 21st, 2019, Chad submitted a claim for Tamara Michelle Douglas Daybell as deceased as of on October 19th, 2019. The place of the death was at Rexford, Idaho at the home, and the cause of death was died in sleep. On October 31st, Chad received a deposit of $300,000 in life insurance. On October 8th, he received an additional $130,000 life insurance proceeds.
And I think on that last one, you said October. Did you mean November?
I did. I apologize.
Through the investigation, did you become aware that Chad had given Alex Cox a patriarchal blessing?
Yes,
Did you view that or listen to it at some point?
I did.
Is this in fact a portion of that patriarchal blessing?
It is
And can you indicate when the blessing was given to Alex?
November 24th, 2019.
And can you read that excerpt into the record?
It says, quote, "After you have been exalted in the fourth creation, you could have gone on to exaltation with Holly as a resurrected being. However, you accepted the Savior's invitation to come to this mortal realm one more time in the fifth creation, to condescend as a God to help us. You have already assisted us in many ways that can never be repaid, but you will continue to do so as you move forward in this life."
Was there something about this particular portion that stood out to you?
There was
And what part was that?
the last sentence. You have already assisted us in many ways that can never be repaid.
And then can you talk through what we're seeing on this slide?
So these are internet searches between October 1st and October 16th.
And I think you said October.
Oh, God, I'm sorry, December. I'm looking right at it too. December 1st, 2019, Chad Daybell internet search, Rexford Police Department. December 5th, 2019, internet search, Tammy Daybell obituary. December 11th, 2019 is the day that the body of Tammy Daybell was exhumed. October 12th, 2019, Alex Cox is found dead in his apartment in Chandler, Arizona. And December 16th, 2019, Chad Daybell internet searches, authorization to discern a body in Utah, Utah Administrative Code, Utah Administrative Rules, Springfield City Cemetery, Tamara Daybell autopsy, our law firm, Utah 4th District Court, Utah State Court Directory for the contact information.
And Alex Cox was found dead on December 12th of 2019.
He was.
As part of your investigation, did you also assist in a search on the Daybell property in June of 2020?
I did.
And do you know what the search was for?
Tylee and JJ.
Were there multiple agencies involved?
There were.
Were you in charge of the search?
No,
Did you assist?
I did.
What specific tasks were you given in relation to that?
I was directed to search on the north side of the property under the tree where JJ was found.
And did you in fact assist with that?
I did.
Were you present when his body was recovered?
I was.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake.
You can tell that this detective has anger and he wants justice too. It's the undertow, it's the undercurrent of his voice. And when he said that's the day that Tammy Daybell was killed or murdered,
All right, Mr. Pryor, cross-examination.
he knew he wasn't supposed to say that, but he did. Those are the types of subtleties I'm okay with in court.
The Elmo device.
You may just let us know what you're publishing.
Good old Elmo, Sesame Street. Time for Sesame Street. All right. Well, while we're waiting for Pryor to deal with Sesame Street Elmo.
Judge, we're going to start out with Exhibit
Oh, okay.
398,
We'll come
the
back to that.
officers. And is it investigator or officer? I'm sorry.
Investigator's fine.
Okay, investigator.
And Your Honor, may we approach just briefly?
Yes.
Okay, I'll come back to that. So while they are sidebarring, this is me many years ago, many pounds ago, as the Uma Thurman character in Pulp Fiction. As you can see, I have a syringe sticking out of my chest. Damn, I wish I still had that figure. I do not. But I won the contest. Yes. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good job, and that picture was from a party. That's not where I actually won the contest. I won the contest at a beach volleyball tournament. So I played beach volleyball in that. That's one of the reasons I chose that outfit, because I could wear a sports bra as part of the costume. Oh my goodness. If I could get that tummy back, I'd be happy. Of course, that was pre-kids, pre-children, right? Another year, I dressed up as Nancy Kerrigan, and I kind of feel bad about it now, looking back. But I had a friend who looked like Tanya Harding, so she dressed up as Tanya Harding. Her boyfriend dressed up as Galooly.
All right, at this time, we are going to take the mid-afternoon recess to work out an exhibit here. We'll come back on the record. We'll try to do that about quarter after. And so we'll be on break till then.
Okay.
Please.
So while they're taking a break, I pulled something up that I want to show you, just to give you a sense for the attitude of the Daybell, at least one of the Daybell children, in the aftermath of Chad and Lori. Well, in the aftermath of all these charges coming, I did a million sparkles. I really did. I dressed up as Nancy Kerrigan. I had crutches and a knee brace and a skate outfit. And yeah, that syringe worked, right, MK? I agree. But anyway, I had, a knee brace. And again, I chose the Nancy Kerrigan outfit because I was playing beach volleyball and I needed something I could play my beach volleyball in. So I had, the skater's outfit, but I also had a knee brace on and my hair was tied back very tight in a bun. I don't have a picture of it though. Somehow I should ask my friend if she has any pictures of it, because again, she dressed up as Tanya Harding. And what was so funny about that is my friend was really good at roller skating. So, we were at the age where we went around to all kinds of different Halloween parties. Much different world. We were at the age where we used to go around all kinds of different Halloween parties. And my friend wore her roller skates going around to all these different parties. Some of, some of us were walking and she was roller skating. We took a taxi to a different location for a new party and she had her roller skates on in the taxi. And I remember when I was wearing that costume for the beach volleyball tournament, this kid was looking at us, just this little kid, like maybe 5 years old. And he was like, Dad, is that really Nancy Kerrigan? Oh gosh. But looking back, I feel kind of bad goofing on, did she do a triple Lutz? No. And man, I'm glad she didn't try, because so even by this time, even when I'm this, even at this young, thin age, I had already stopped drinking. I was the non-drinker of my group. So everybody else would get drunk and I wouldn't get drunk. And she's a drinker. So there was no way so she was getting a little bit clumsy on those roller skates. There's no way she was going to try to do a triple lutz. She is very athletic, I have to say, but she wasn't doing no triple lutz. Okay. So I do want to show this to you because it gives you an indication of the attitude of the Daybell children, or at least Emma Daybell. Okay. Um, and this is from January 3rd, 2020. And this is the first time that law enforcement served a search warrant on the Daybell home. Okay. They had not arrested anyone yet. They had commanded Lori to produce her children, and she hadn't. And but they must have had the data. They must have had that location data from Alex's phone, knowing that the children were he was there and he's involved somehow. And by this time, he was dead. He had just died a couple weeks before. And they had exhumed Tammy by this time and were doing her autopsy. So they served a search warrant on the home of the Daybell household. And unfortunately, they weren't able to find anything because the ground was frozen over. But this is Emma Murray driving by law enforcement, and the news cameras caught it.
You mentioned the woman that approached you during your report yesterday. What happened with that? Well, Linda, she told me live there that she asked, oh, sorry, even though we were not, I told her that we.
That's Emma Daybell. That's Emma Daybell in the car behind the news reporter goofing on her.
Approached you during your report yesterday. What happened with that? Well, Linda, she told me live there that she asked, oh, sorry, even though we were not, I told her that we were legally able to be on the property. She asked me to leave during my live report, and
she stuck her tongue out. You see that? She freaking stuck her tongue out. Just a little. Look at this.
Able to be on the property. She asked me to leave during my live report, and I refused to leave. Wow. Okay. Now I'm taking a look at that and seeing she's pulling some faces and some things that really seem pretty inappropriate for somebody whose family is connected with.
And when people were putting memorials up at the house, like afterward, so after the kids were found there in June, people were starting to put, memorials at the house. People were visiting the house and going, and putting up, there was just tons and tons of people going by there and putting memorials. It was very emotional, right? And his kids were trolling those people. They were actually making photographs. They made like memes out of this morning. In fact, let me see if I can find it, because I gotta just give you a sense for how incredibly callous this family has been, at least this young woman. Yeah, I'm not finding the meme at the moment. Hold on just a sec. Well, I didn't find the meme. But I did find Emma Daybell's quote. Okay. From the 48 hours interview that they did. I'm pulling it up right now. And it's another indication of, where their heads are at. I do know that if he were to commit a crime, he wouldn't be foolish enough to put the evidence in his own backyard. That is an incredibly ignorant and stupid thing to say. That is a very foolish and stupid thing to say. Because obviously that is what happened, and they don't know much about how criminals work. They want to have control over. They think that if they put, if they bury things on their own property, it's less likely to be found. They have control over it. Police will have to seek a search warrant. But look at this piece of crap.
Work and
I mean, and just as an aside, I'm not saying that this means anything. I just took a screenshot of that. She looks a lot like Tammy, don't you think? I mean, it's just so sad. Her mother is dead. 2 children were found in her backyard. And this is what she does. This is what she does. I'm bound and determined to find that meme, though, because it was so indicative of their attitude. Oh, well, I'm not finding it. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, she if nothing else, you feel sad. Feel sad that a person's perspective can be turned so twisted, can be so twisted as to believe that this is okay. Okay, I'll pull that up, Patricia. Oh, wow. I also got some other. Sounds like okay, I just found it, Patricia. Do you want me to show it to the class? Would you like me to show it to the class? I don't want to show it unless you're okay with that. It's so cute. Hey, Cutie Pie, I just noticed that you sent me an email. Am I understanding correctly? That Kayla was released today? Is that what I'm seeing? I'll show it, Grandma, if Patricia's okay with that. Okay, interesting. So, breaking news, Kayla Montgomery was released from prison today. Sorry to be the bearer of disgusting news. I appreciate Cutie Pie making me alert to this fact. Because we had been checking that last week, and it said she was still incarcerated. So I guess that app was correct that she had not been released yet, and now she is being released. So I do. Oh, okay. Thank you, Patricia. Here it is. It's so cute. It's adorable. Oh, I love people. I really do. It makes me so sad when people, when I like it makes me so sad when people are mean, because I really love people, and this is one of the things that is very, very, very cute. Of course, Your Honor, yes. Of course. I showed that a few different times yesterday, Grandma Sherry. I showed that over and over because it was pretty funny. More bloopers. Yeah, Cutie Pie, I appreciate you letting us know. I really appreciate that. So for anyone who's just joining, this is Patricia, and I think you said this is your son, Oscar, Queen of Hearts and Mad Hatter. If anyone else has their Halloween pictures that they want to share, feel free. Email is either checkmatehumanity@gmail.com or disorderinthecourt2, the number 2 at gmail.com. And, I'm noticing, Patricia, we were showing your, I think you said it was your nephew who's missing, or I think you said he was actually killed. Anyway, he had gone missing several years ago. You look like him because we were showing the picture earlier. I can see the family resemblance. Let's get one last look at this. Let me see if there's anything else documenting the one moment. I'm going to look. You keep looking at this cute picture while I look for something else that I saw. That gives you a much clearer picture of what that backyard looks like, right? Look at that. Look at all those law enforcement officers. Look at all those law enforcement officers and the work that they had to do out there. Oh, sounds like court is back. But look, nice to get a closer up view.
Ready to be brought in, so Mr. Bailiff, once they're ready, please have them come in.
I won't ask to start now, Judge.
All right.
Yeah, me too, cutie pie. Yeah, when my Stacy, when my son was younger, he had that kind of Justin Bieber haircut for a little while. It was so cute. Well, Patricia, 4 of them apparently are going to testify for him in this trial. That's what Pryor said at the beginning of the trial, that 4 of the kids are going to testify. So, which begs the question of who is not going to testify
All right, thank you. Please be
and
seated.
why, right?
We're back on the record on CR 2221-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. Cross-examination can commence at this time, Mr. Pryor. We do have completed the mid-afternoon recess, and I presume the exhibit's been prepared that you were going to, that you were going to use. So if you'd like to commence with cross, you may.
Thank you, Judge. And if again, could I utilize the Elmo device? And this would be for in relation to Exhibit 398 that the state had prepared in this case.
Yes, you may use the Elmo.
Thank you, Your Honor. And before we start with that, investigator, my understanding is that the information you provided today through your testimony was the result of a number of agencies providing you information. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So the Fremont County Sheriff's Office provided you information, correct?
They did.
Rexburg Police Department provided you information.
Correct.
The FBI
Yep. Yes.
and other agencies. In putting together this summary, you reviewed all of the information and prepared the summary based on the information that was provided to you. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In addition, were you provided all of the police reports, all of the recordings, all of the data evidence, or was it a process of these agencies providing you what you specifically asked for?
So during the time that our office, the Attorney General's office, was involved in this case, we were being provided those things. Once we no longer on the case, when the case went back to Fremont County, we were no longer provided any other additional information.
So when you say those things, were you provided the actual police reports in regards to this investigation?
I was.
Okay, and you were provided the interviews
I was.
and all of the emails?
We were provided 3 different hard drives of information.
Okay, and you took the liberty, like I did, going through every single piece of evidence, right?
I'm going to tell you, I did not. I did not look at every single piece of evidence.
Okay. Okay. Did you track the number of phone calls and the frequency of those phone calls between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell on a daily basis?
No.
What you're testifying to is what you observed on particular days that you chose regarding those phone calls. Is that right?
That's fair.
And you did not look at how frequently or how regularly Chad Daybell or Lori to Alex communicated on a daily basis. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's probably all of it. If you're talking all of the phone calls, no, I didn't look at all of those.
Okay. So you can't say that the frequency of these phone calls is unusual. You can only say that the phone calls and or the text messages and the communication took place on those particular days. Would that be fair?
Say that again?
You can't say that the frequency of phone calls on certain days that you highlighted is unusual. All you can say is that on those particular days, the phone calls that took place are documented in your report. Is that fair?
Documented in my report's not fair, but yeah, I would say that I focused in on those because that's where the investigation led me.
Okay. But again, you didn't say, well, on October 1, they had 15 phone calls with each other, but on October 2, on a day of relevance, they had these phone calls. You didn't compare it to non-eventful days with eventful days. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's probably correct.
Okay. Now, I'd like if we could just slowly go through your timeline, and I won't be so slow, but we'll.
Okay.
I won't be so slow, but we are going to hit a few things if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oops.
If you're just joining us, please remember to hit the thumbs up. And also the detective on the stand is
Somebody move my
testifying
tape.
to
That
the
messed me up.
digital evidence.
So what we have, if we start on this exhibit, we sometime in late November. Is that correct?
October.
October, excuse me. October, right.
Did the same thing. Okay.
Thank you. Give me a bumble against today, would you?
You do the same for me.
I will.
Okay.
We have an agreement. Okay.
Okay, guys. All right. Okay.
And then we have the date of Charles Vallows being killed by Alex Cox. You see that?
Yes, sir.
And as part of the sharing of information, you are aware that Chad Daybell is not criminally implicated in the murder of Charles Vallow, correct?
I'm not sure on that.
Oh, okay. So the purpose of putting on that was to document, but you haven't been shared any information that Chad Daybell is not criminally implicated in the murder of Charles Vallow, or you were provided a prosecutor's report noting that?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Then the next one you have is they moved to Rexburg, JJ, Alex, and Tylee, Lori, correct?
Correct.
Tylee goes missing, JJ goes missing. Then we go to the attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreaux. And once again, I noted that you put two items on here, one obviously with the Charles Vallow, but the other one was Brandon Boudreaux. Are you aware that Chad Daybell is not criminally implicated in the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux?
Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike counsel's testifying.
Sustained.
Are you aware as to whether or not Chad Daybell is implicated in the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux?
I'm not.
Okay. And then you have Tammy's passing, Chad married. And then as far as Alex Cox is concerned, do you have any information as to the cause of death of Alex Cox?
No, not with me.
Okay, well, do you have any information as part of your investigation with all of these multiple agencies as to what caused Alex Cox to pass away?
No, I would say that was probably not my scope on this one.
Okay, but you included it on your timeline, right?
I included all three of those on this timeline.
Right, well, you just jumped ahead of my question, but thank you. Okay. And just very quickly, you noted that, was that the date, the 26th of 2018, that Chad and Lori first met?
That's what I believe. That's what I was given.
So when you put down the 30th of 2018, Chad doing some searches Do you find it particularly unusual that two people who find themselves enamored with each other would Google search each other?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's such a weird and new thing to me. Like when I first started dating people, you didn't Google them. But it is normal now.
I will get this eventually. So on November 16th and 17th, there's been some previous testimony about Chad traveling to Mesa, Arizona for a Preparing the People conference. You noted that he stayed with Lori in her residence. Are you aware of who the other people that also stayed with Lori at the residence were?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
But you're aware that Chad was not staying just exclusively with Lori at the residence that day, right?
I don't think I can testify to that.
Okay, so you don't have any knowledge, or as part of your many groups of who provided you information, they didn't happen to mention that Chad didn't stay there exclusively with Lori, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Does it matter? They were just there as what beards, basically beards for the affair, right? They all knew why they were there.
On the May 7th to May 5th through 7th, the search for malachite rings. Did you have any emails or text message discussing whether or not both of them admired or had a reason for searching malachite rings?
Not that I remember.
Okay. Or did you take the time and effort to research what the purpose is behind malachite rings?
I do remember reading that. I don't know if I could speak to it today on what that
Okay.
meant.
Would it jar your recollection if there was some reference to the healing powers of malachite? Does that reflect any way your recollection?
No.
Okay. Now we see an email from Charles and Tammy. And this is June 29th of 2019, right?
Yes.
And at that point, we don't know, particularly through your investigation, when Lori and Chad began seriously this affair, do we?
No, sir.
We can't pin it to a specific day, can we?
I cannot.
But we know at this point something's up, right?
I think that's fair.
Okay. And at this point, it appears that by way of this text message, Charles has discovered something. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Now, do you have any information that shows that any evidence that you've been provided through these numerous agencies that Tammy Daybell blocked Charles's email to her?
That Tammy Daybell blocked. Say that again.
Did Tammy Daybell block Charles from emailing her anymore? Do you have any information to that effect?
I do not. No.
Okay. Did any law enforcement agency or otherwise through your network of officers helping you provide you information to that effect? Okay.
I had never seen that one, Rachel, and it was cringe AF.
Now, these emails in general talk partly about the Elena and James story, correct?
Yes.
And at the very top where it says July 14th of 2019, and could you read what you wrote at the very top on the right hand, very top of that split screen?
Where it says Chad writes a romantic sexual story, James and Elena, and sends it to Lori.
Okay.
Chad writes romantic sexual story, James and Elena, and sends it to Lori.
So the way you perceive this is Chad was writing a romantic sexual, and we can't deny that, right? To Lori, correct?
I think that's fair.
And in no way is this reflecting that because they're having an affair and he's writing her a romantic letter, that it has anything to do with the murder of 2 or 3 people, right?
No, I don't
Motive.
agree with that.
Okay.
Motive.
Where in this letter does it show, let's kill some kids?
Yeah,
Deceptive.
you're not gonna find that in there.
Okay, and you're not going to find that in any emails, are you, sir?
As
Probably
if you
not.
would.
Okay, thank you.
This is idiotic. This is when I get pissed off. What? You're going to see text messages? Hey, let's kill the kids. So disingenuous, so misleading, so stupid.
This is a text from Lori to Chad, letting him know that she talked to the insurance company. Do you see that?
I do.
You agree with that?
Do I agree with what?
That she's telling Chad, I talked to the insurance company?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree that she told him, he meaning Charles, changed it in March?
Yes.
Okay. And then at the last sentence of her text, she says something. Would you read that for me? I'll still?
I'll still get the 4,000 a month in SS.
Okay. And at this point, Tylee's still alive to your knowledge, right?
Good question,
Yes.
Christina.
JJ's
Hello.
still alive to your knowledge, right?
Yes.
Tammy's still alive to your knowledge, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Lori Vallow is talking about the fact that with Charles dead, she's getting 4,000. And do you know what the 4,000 is from?
4,000 a month in Social Security is what I'm based on this text.
Would that be for the death, for the help support the children?
I'm not sure what that's for.
Okay. July 30th, 2019, Chad sent Lori a text. Something about releasing a little steam. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
And then he talks, and would you read going from anyway,
Anyway,
going
this,
through the first 2 or 3 sentences, please?
okay. Anyway, this is a chart that checks what percentage mortals are still in their body. It worked for my friend's wife who died, my neighbor, George Bush, Stan Lee, etc. I kind of forgot about it because I've been dealing with zombies and demonic entities.
Okay. So he's talking about some sort of a chart that other of his neighbors used. Do you see that?
Yes,
Did you ever find that chart?
specifically to the chart he's talking about. I'm not sure what that chart would look like, or I haven't seen that chart that he's talking to.
Okay. So by term of this, apparently he makes reference to that there being some sort of a chart out there. Do you know if that chart is affiliated with any specific religion?
Again, I don't know what chart you're talking about.
Okay. Well, the one about percentage mortals are still in their body. That's the chart I'm talking about.
I'm not going to speculate. I don't know which one you're talking about, sir.
Okay, that's okay.
Right, Grandma? I mean, it's just gets crazier and crazier. Yeah. Harlot. Okay. Okay.
And what we have
Okay.
here is from Lori to Zulema, right? And Zulema to Chad.
And he always pronounces
Yes, sir.
Zulema's name wrong.
Regards of
Zuluma.
Lori, it appears, and Chad are using Zulema to sort of give them an alibi to get together, right?
Yes, sir.
And Is that something that's particularly unusual if two people are having an affair and they find a close patriot to set up a rendezvous that they know maybe shouldn't be going on?
In this case,
I'm not talking about this case. I'm talking
I-
about in general.
in this case,
Objection, Your Honor. I think that calls for speculation and is irrelevant.
Sustained on relevance.
Well, it looks
Now,
like
you
I
talked about
need to
the,
put another clip reel together on prior. Zulema, and at one point she says, "It's Zulema," and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, Zulema," and then he keeps saying Zulema.
Grendel gun, correct?
yes, sir.
And if we were talking in the context of a hunting rifle, it's not unusual to scope something out at 100, then go to 200, and then maybe out to 300, correct?
Correct.
And someone who's a gun aficionado, it would not be unusual to score your scope so that you know how accurate that gun is, correct?
That is correct.
Did you read or review all of the evidence as it relates to the paintball incident with Tammy Daybell?
I believe so.
Do you know how many times the word paintball was mentioned in all of the documentation related to Tammy Daybell?
No, sir, I don't.
Were you aware of the Google search that Tammy Daybell did on her computer identifying the gun that she thought was being held in the person's hand?
No.
Okay. So the issue with this Grendel is you are suggesting as a possibility that maybe it could have been a gun that someone was using with Tammy Daybell. Is that fair?
Yes,
Instead of a paintball gun?
100% fair.
Okay, well, 100% fair, but you don't know whether it was a paintball gun or a rifle, do you? That day?
I believe it was a Grendel.
Okay, and you believe it was a Grendel, but you weren't there, were you?
No, sir, I was not.
And you didn't go through all of the evidence that you just testified to determine exactly what gun it was. You're going off of what you believe. You're invoking your personal opinion, aren't you?
Objection, Your Honor. This is argumentative and it's asked and answered.
Sustained.
He's also not brainwashed by Chad to say paintball gun. He's also not brainwashed by somebody who is incentivized. There's no ring cam footage, Rachel, none at all. From that incident, I suspect we'd be seeing it by now.
In this exhibit, you talked about that there were some messages between Alex Cox and Chad Daybell. Is that right at this time?
Yes, sir,
And this is on the 9th, correct?
it is.
That's the paintball incident day?
Correct.
Okay. Now, again, you noted that there were text messages, but you, again, didn't put that into context of how many other text messages on a daily basis these folks talk, did you?
Correct.
And when you look at this chart, what sort of data were you deriving this information from? Was it a Wi-Fi, Google, or what was it?
This was provided to me from the FBI cast report.
Okay. So when you look at those squares, are you familiar with how cast reports work?
I'm familiar enough to read that report.
Okay. But you don't know you're not an expert on this information, are you?
That's a fair statement, sir.
And you would rely on the experts to provide this information to you, correct?
I would.
And at that point, you would read it and interpret it the way you see it, correct?
I would read it the way they told me.
Oh, so someone told you that Alex and Chad were near each other on that day?
Their devices were.
Okay. Now I'm looking at the ranges, the purple and the green, and those would represent the towers, correct?
I think the key does say, I actually think those are phone numbers, what you're looking at.
Okay. So when you say near each other, are you aware of how far Alex Cox's apartment is to the BYU library?
I'm not off the top of my head, no, sir.
When you look at that chart, are you able to determine that the range of that encompasses the BYU library?
Off of this,
Yes,
I can't tell, no, sir.
okay. But you can't also say that when the devices were near each other, you can't even tell me how close they were to each other, can you?
They were sufficiently close. I couldn't probably. off the top of my head.
Can you?
You couldn't, could you?
Could you?
You talk about 8 text messages between Alex and Chad Daybell. And again, we'll go back to the fact that you didn't look at the ordinary course of how often they communicated, correct? Frequently on a daily basis.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Sustain.
Did you check as to whether or not any of these messages were duplicates?
I can't say that I did right away off the top of my head. I'd have to be refreshed. I don't know.
Okay. Do you recall, did you check whether or not as part of the phone records that they were counting some of these phone messages twice?
I can't answer that
Okay. You're not qualified or equipped to do that, correct?
right now, no.
I'll eventually get the hang of this someday. I think I may have put the wrong one up.
Being
It was
self
October 9th.
being self-deprecating can be a, endearing trait, but not when it's
I think I put the
overused.
wrong one up.
And
Judge, could I just have a moment?
Yes.
Mr. Pryor very heavily relies on being self-deprecating. That's the cornerstone of his interactions,
I did put the wrong one up, excuse me.
above and beyond the, Q&A here.
We're going to start a different area first, okay?
Okay.
And it's a pandering kind of thing. Okay, I'm going to be self-deprecating so that you can see me as humble.
So they, on October 9th, that was the day that Tammy Daybell was allegedly shot with either a paintball gun or, as you seem to think, some sort of a rifle, right?
She was not shot.
Shot at.
Shot at, correct.
And then October 11th, what's that first sentence say? How to what?
How to drill baffles to make a suppressor.
Okay. So I guess my question is that if Tammy Daybell was shot at on the 9th, why is someone looking how to make a suppressor on a gun if they were shot at by a suppressor 2 days earlier?
He's trying to figure out what he did wrong.
Is that a question for me?
Sure.
If he discarded a suppressor, has a new one, needs to make a new one, there's a number of reasons why you'd look for a new suppressor.
Yeah. Or there's also a reason that you didn't know how to use a suppressor and you were learning for the first time, right?
I think that's evident that he didn't know how to use this weapon from the beginning.
Okay. So he had to learn 2 days after Tammy Daybell's shooting how to use a suppressor, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative.
He didn't know
Sustained.
how to use
Right.
it from the beginning. Throw in that subtle
And then 2
shade.
days after the alleged shooting of Tammy Daybell by the paintball gun, or as you suggest, a rifle, there's a reference to a Dodge Dakota steel body thickness, right?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned that the Daybells have a Dodge Dakota.
They did at that time. Yes, sir.
Okay, do you know what year they have?
It is a different year. I believe it's I believe it's a 2004.
But still talking about the thickness of a steel body of a Dodge Dakota.
Correct.
Okay. And the doors on the Dodge Dakota,
Yes, sir.
the gauge steel are what gauge steel is what they're doing? And then how thick is 22 gauge? Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And then further below on October 11th, there's the one in between, which is of interest to me. How to build your own silencer, right?
Correct.
And that's 2 days after Tammy was shot, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're all special, Solo. You're special. I'm special. Stacy's special. Grandma's special. We are special people.
There we go. Okay, not perfect.
I agreed,
So
Grandma.
then the second paragraph,
Trying to figure out
um,
how to do it again.
Alex's phone does not provide data from 10:45 until 11:53 when it is 7 minutes from the LDS church on Highway 20. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But then up above, it says Alex is near the Daybell residence. And how far is he away?
2.6 miles away.
And he's at that residence from, is that 10:07 to 10:45?
Yes.
So then he leaves is it your testimony that he leaves the LDS church at 10:45? And you don't have any data from 10:45 to 11:53 until, I guess it's at 11:53. He's 7 minutes away from the church on Highway 20. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Go ahead, explain to me.
So what's your question again? Are you 11:53 was when was the last time and when it started providing data again, which was 7 minutes away from the LDS church.
Okay. But from 10:45 to 11:53, we don't know the whereabouts of Alex Cox. Would that be fair?
That's fair.
Or his phone? Excuse me, we should talk about it as his phone, shouldn't we?
I don't think we know where Alex Cox is at that point. I think that was a fair question the first time.
We know where is his phone, right? We don't know.
His
where
phone
it's-
is at the church.
Up until what time?
Well, it provides data from until 11:53. Well, 7 minutes prior to that.
Well, and please forgive me, I'm reading that a little different, and that's where I'm having some confusion. The second paragraph, and if you would just read that entire paragraph for me.
So Alex's phone does not provide data from 10:45 p.m. until 11:53, when it is 7 minutes away from the LDS church on Highway 20.
So when reading that, we don't know where Alex Cox's data was from 10:45 to 11:53, correct?
His
His
phone?
phone, his phone.
Correct.
Okay, but we do know from 10:07 to 10:45, his phone was binging at the LDS church, 2.6 miles away, right?
Correct.
Okay, and I'm just trying to clarify
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
I think we didn't clarify it, but
So I look at this chart, and what was of some interest to me is that you mentioned.
Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike that statement.
Sustained.
Let's look at the bottom line the fourth from the bottom line at 11:46. What does that notation read?
Alex's phone leaves the LDS church parking lot.
And then we'll go back to the original exhibit. Now, you previously put in your report that at 11:46, he left the church parking lot. On this notation, on the second paragraph, it seems to suggest that 11:53, he's 7 minutes away from the church. Which is it?
Well, if you back 11:53 off of 7,
Okay. 11:53 gets you to 11:46, right? 7 minutes off?
Yeah.
Yes.
But
thank
you're
you.
saying that there's
Reminder,
no
Rachel.
data of Alex's whereabouts from 10:45 to 11:53. So how do you know he's at the church if there's no data?
his phone's not providing data. It's sitting. It's not moving.
Well, you don't know that, do you?
I was told that by the cast.
Okay. So in other words, the story from which cast, the FBI?
Correct.
So the FBI told you that the phone is sitting there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, then that based on what you were told by the FBI, that from 10:45 until 11:53, well, 10:45 to 11:46, Alex Cox was non-mobile and was in the same location for an hour at the LDS church, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. This has been asked and answered.
No.
It's overruled.
Well, you said it was 11:46, right, in your report? The yellow report, do we need to see that one again?
No. Ask your question again.
Why don't you read the first line of the second paragraph up until the word 7 minutes away?
Objection, Your Honor. This has been asked and answered and it's argumentative.
I am going to sustain that, Mr. Pryor. It has been asked and answered.
So is it your position that Alex Cox's phone was not at the LDS church from 10:45 to 11:53?
His phone was not mobile at the LDS church.
His phone was again, I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, you said something too. Yeah. Say the question again.
Is it your testimony that Alex Cox's phone was not mobile from 10:45 to 11:53 at the LDS church?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Overruled.
You can answer.
It's not providing data.
Okay. There's a discussion about insurance on this particular slide, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that could you read under September 8th? The two sentences below or just next to September 8th, 2019, starting with Tammy's?
September 8th, 2019, Tammy's life insurance through Ballard Insurance from the school was raised to 50,000. She raised her individual amount from 10,000 to a max of 80,000 for a total of 130,000.
Okay. And then obviously there was a claim for that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then there was a comment on October 31, 2019 that Chad received and deposited 300,000 life insurance from Primerica, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any knowledge as part of the number of agencies involved in this investigation when Chad and Tammy Daybell opened up that life insurance policy?
It's on this slide, March 19th of 2002.
Okay, I don't see that on the slide. I'm sorry.
It's at the top.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. I missed that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You had mentioned earlier about a number of text messages. The prosecutor asked you about the content of a number of text messages. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
What was the range he was talking about in those text messages where there was no content?
Specific. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Say that again.
There were a number of text messages where the prosecutor asked you about not having any content in some of those text messages. correct?
Okay. Yes, sir.
And do you recall which device and what was the range that you were not provided content of text messages?
There were a number of text messages that we didn't get the content for. Some we got, some we did not.
Okay,
So specifically, I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
okay. Well, you answered my question. Thank
Okay.
you, but
Good.
the issue is then, isn't it true then that we don't know what those folks were talking about, do we?
No, sir, we don't.
We don't know what the discussion centered around, do we?
I believe I know
Well, how do you know if there's no content?
my training and experience
Okay,
in this overall case.
so basically you're speculating, isn't it true, of what the content may be because it aids you in supporting your theory of the case. Isn't that true?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative.
Sustained.
I have nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pryor.
I smell spaghetti. You know what happens when you're smelling spaghetti? You got spaghetti been thrown against that wall.
All right, Ms. Blake, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Edwards, you were asked about the fact that you focused in on specific days in looking at phone calls. Do you recall that?
I do.
Was there a reason that you focused in on the days you did?
I did.
And why was that?
Because there were significant events that occurred around each of those days.
And Your Honor, may I have the paper exhibit 398? I'm not sure, Mr. Pryor may still have it. It's
Judge,
just,
I can,
this is just the accurate copy.
Very well. Mr. Bailiff, will have you retrieve that and submit that to the state, please?
And if I may have permission to publish from the paper exhibit 398.
You may.
You may.
And I guess I'd like a little clarification on the record about your comment, Ms. Blake, for purpose of instructing the jurors here what you meant when you said accurate copy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, the state had provided this particular exhibit in jump drive format. There were a few modifications that had been made to the exhibit. There were other copies that had been printed out that did not contain those accurate changes. This particular printout does have those accurate changes contained within it.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to clarify that nothing that was presented or published in cross was what you deem an inaccurate part of the exhibit. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor, and I appreciate that clarification. This paper copy is an exact replica of the jump drive that was presented in the direct examination.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Blake.
That's sweet, Patricia. But I've also never
And that's
heard
still going to have a
that
little bit of a
expression.
glare. But was this one of the days that you had determined had significance to your investigation?
Thrilled to Dolly Rags. I love that.
Before and after that, who was having contact by text message?
Alex and Chad. Chad and Alex.
And this is around the time that Chad Daybell's wife had been shot at.
Correct.
I've seriously never heard that expression, thrilled to dolly rags.
Did you determine these particular dates of October 18th and 19th of 2019 to have significance?
Yes.
And on this, do you see an indication of Chad having contact with Lori?
Yes.
Do you see indications of Chad having contact with Alex?
Yes.
And is this around the time or right before Tammy Daybell is pronounced dead?
Yes.
You were asked about a determination that Chad and Lori were engaged in an affair.
Yes.
Is that what the investigation led you to believe?
Yes.
Do you recall when Alex shot Charles?
The July 19th, I believe, 2019.
And could it have been July 11th of 2019?
Yes.
And Charles was married to Lori, is that correct?
Correct.
Is it your belief based on the investigation or your understanding that Chad and Lori were already engaged in an affair?
Yes.
And do you recall again the day Tammy was pronounced dead?
I do.
And when was that?
October 19th
Do you recall where her body was discovered?
in the Daybell residence
Do you recall specifically that it was in her bed?
bedroom.
What's the connection between Tammy Daybell and Alex Cox?
Chad Daybell.
And do you know where Lori Vallow's children's remains were discovered?
I do.
Judge, objection goes beyond the scope.
Overruled.
Where was that?
Daybell property.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. That concludes the testimony then of Investigator Edwards. At this point, council, I'd like a brief sidebar to discuss scheduling, please.
I think this idea of discussing the schedule at a sidebar is new in the age of live streaming. I tell me more about what you're thinking, Solo Sock. I think it's an interesting idea. However, what I have found is that people are very reluctant to get on YouTube and tell their stories. For a variety of reasons, I'm not criticizing it at all. But, they just are. They just are. And a lot of times, in all honesty, I just think that what true crime needs to do a lot more of is bringing awareness to the cases that aren't getting awareness, because the algorithm favors these, the high profile ones that are getting all the attention, and doesn't give enough attention to the ones that, all the everyday cases that are happening every single day, and for one reason or another are not getting the attention and are just as important, just as harrowing, and there's another thing that is just, I can't stop thinking about, you guys. Every single day, it seems there's a new case of a female teacher being arrested for sexually assaulting one of their students in the most grotesque of ways. I mean, engaging in a full slate of grooming, getting into cars with them, taking them to parks, going to their houses, having sex in their parents' bed. I'm absolutely undone by this whole situation. And it's more than it used to be. There's always been this kind of activity, unfortunately, obviously. But in recent months, it's coming across my feed day after day after day after day. And you are not going to convince me that social media didn't play a huge hand in that.
All right, thank you, counsel. We discussed scheduling, and I just want to advise the jurors of where things stand. It has been told to the court that the state's got one additional witness in their case in chief. That witness is not, we wouldn't be able to get done with today. They're going to take longer than the time we've got remaining. So the state will be calling one additional witness tomorrow. That will likely lead to a shortened day tomorrow if the state does in fact rest its case in chief, where the court will have some other issues to take up outside of the jury presence. So at this point, I'm letting the jurors know that we are going to conclude for the day. And in addition, tomorrow will likely be a shortened day. And then we'll have some additional specific detail to give the jurors tomorrow in terms of the proposed schedule of the trial moving forward at this point. Does that accurately represent where the state is on its case in chief?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions about that, Mr. Pryor?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Exactly,
Well,
Grandma.
ladies and gentlemen of the jury, then thank you again for your attentiveness today. We'll go ahead and conclude for today, returning for additional testimony with the state's final witness on its case in chief to start tomorrow morning at 8:30. Again, thank you for following the admonishment. I give you each day as you go home to not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Please don't do anything to research or look the case up, and we'll have you sign your juror affirmations when you arrive in the morning. And with that, we will conclude for the day. Thank you.
All rise, please.
Exactly, Solo Sock. It is absolutely sick. And I'm fixing to go live about that on my other channel at some point, maybe this weekend. But I really want to talk about this. I think there's a lot of factors going into it, but I just can't get over the fact that this just keeps coming up on my feed, and I think there's many factors to why that's happening. So, but getting back to the whole Daybell trial thing. Okay. So we just got a bunch of questions answered for us about scheduling here. And yesterday someone was asking, hey, how long is this trial going to take? And I'm actually kind of proud of my estimation, because I said, probably in about 2 weeks. And that's what it's sounding like, because what the judge just said is that the state is going to call one more witness and then they are resting their case. Okay. So that means tomorrow, Thursday, is likely to be the last day that the state puts on their case. And then it's Pryor's time to put on his case. And it's really difficult for me to believe that he has more than a week of testimony. Right. So, my guess is that this trial may be going to the jury next week, like the end of next week. So, and that's it. Sorry, bouncing back. I know we're having slightly two different conversations. We're having one conversation about the trial, and we're also having another conversation about the thing I just brought up and you're still talking about, which is, it is normal to have a crush on a teacher. It's up to the teacher not to have a crush on a child, or to foster it or groom it or carry it on, or boost their freaking ego with a crush of a child. Do they actually think that that's some sort of conquest? Anyway, I definitely had crushes on teachers. Thank goodness none of them picked up on that or acted on it. I did have a friend. We were in the 5th grade and this guy came to our school and said he was making a movie about something, and the school let him come in and recruit all these girls for this movie. And I confirmed with my friend many years later that he did inappropriate things. And I didn't ask her for details because I didn't want to re-traumatize her, but she confirmed that he did inappropriate things to the girls when they were filming. And it's possible that he actually filmed them doing those inappropriate things. So, yep, yeah, I know, Patricia. It's scary. And I think there's just a number of reasons why we're seeing it start to get reported. Oh, really? I'll have to look that up, teacup. Anyway, so back to scheduling on the Chad Daybell trials. Like, I feel like we're probably going to be closing this trial out either the end of next week or early the following week. Oh, was that a teacher pupil situation? They were in college though, right? That was from college, right, Grandma? Anyway, but this was an interesting day of testimony. We heard more digital evidence from police. We heard the very disturbing, really gross, totally inappropriate phone call between Chad and Lori on June 8th, which was a day before Chad was arrested and they found the kids in the backyard. And he was 15. Yuck. I did not know that, Grandma Sherry. Wow. Anyway, so my goodness. This is a big topic to talk about. But anyway, so the phone call between Chad and Lori where they are giggling like 8th graders, flirting with each other while talking about a plan being executed in batches, and their 3% are not being taken out, and how their plan isn't going the way it should be, and the blueprints and all that stuff, and how they act. It's just, that was disturbing to hear. So I just want you all to be able to leave my stream with a cute image. That's sometimes what's happening. This is from a few days ago. He will literally just sit there and put his head on my desktop. And as you can see, I like to color. But there's my baby Steve, and he's much more pleasant to look at than Chad. I hope you would agree. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for being kind in chat. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. And we will continue tomorrow. It sounds like tomorrow is going to be an early day. So we will, I will see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and please be kind. Bye.